as a bird photographer. That's the lights you want. And he just sat there. It's a rosella. It's I'm thinking it was a bird that's been nesting because all of her tail feathers were missing. So she was kind of a bit short in tail feathers. So I'm assuming she'd been in a nest. But yeah, she's a nice bird. Another wren again, same spot up in Hopeton. They were nice. They were different. It was just different to see a different wren than seeing what we superbs here. It was just, yeah. And a lot of people, when I posted it on Facebook, you get a lot of people who didn't even know there was different types of wrens. They thought the blue wren we got here that was it. That's a female crimson chat. That's she's just bringing back a bit of tucker. I think she was flying out of a field of, they look like peas I think they were. Only grabbing the caterpillars and things out of them and flying them back to the nest. That's just I think it's a young wren.
Yeah, young superb.
Young superb. That was taken down at Old Lake, if I remember right. Which is really good. Old Lake, I think Ian would know if he was here because he's counted all the birds down there. I think he's counted into the hundreds, I think, of different species of birds down at Old Lake.
And it's really accessible down there too.
It's really accessible. It's quite accessible to everyone. To walk and track around it. Silver Eye, that was taken at Lake Wendouree. That was just one. That was up near the rowing end. Little swamp through there you walk through, and there's always some silver eyes in there. Same bird. Don't know what happened to his foot though. It's a bit. Might be just the way he's standing, but it just didn't seem to work well. But it was a nice little photo of it. Budgie. I was taken in town as well. That was the first time. That was more of just a, oh my God, there's a budgie in the tree shot, and just snapped it. And a couple of days later, I found the male there as well. Well, no. Well, yes and no. There's the Australian budgie is native to Australia, and they normally fly in flocks of thousands and thousands in the middle of Australia. So the traditional budgie you see in the pet shop is a hybrid. It's a hybrid. It's a traditional budgie is green. The ones in the pet shop are just all colours.
Because they've been bred that way,
Yeah.
whereas the
These
natural
are
ones
traditional.
are,
And they're only small. The traditional budgies, probably the body wise is a sparrow, but just
about
with a
the
longer
sparrow
tail.
size,
They're not.
yes, only small.
That's it.
That's it.
Right, guys, we've got a list of questions that you have sent in for us to answer. One of the questions is, do you use a bird hide for most of your photos? If yes, what does it look like? Well, up on the screen there's a photo of the hide that we do use, and no, not most of the photos come from the bird hide. Most of the photos just come from walking around the bush and just doing the general thing. But yeah, the bird hide is really handy though to get some really close up images and sharp images of your bird, and it works a treat. That was taken, that's a location that some of you guys will know in town if you've been blindfolded when you've been taken to it. So, but the hide's there, well, for anyone to use.
Anyone
just
to use
stays.
if they want to.
It's been out in the bush now for
And
5, 6, 7 months now.
And I've got mine out there as well.
And Wayne's is on the other side of the bit of place we go to. But yeah, the next image will show you what you see when you're looking at the hide. So that's looking at the hide to the little
water container.
Water container. There's a little perch that sits there as well. So that's probably thinking 5 metres, 5 metres from the camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, the birds are quite happy. You just sit there and dwindle away. The morning goes really quick when you're sitting in there because some days you'll get a lot of birds and some days you won't get any. And it's hit and miss what turns up. But no, it's quite good.
Yeah, so that's the hides.
That's the bird hide.
Yep, the bird hide, and in the summertime they're like a little sauna, so you can lose a bit of weight.
Absolutely.
Very hot.
Right, so we've got another question. I would like to understand how close you guys get to a bird before you take the photo.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, we'd like to get as close as possible, but you know, the smaller birds you can probably get within 5 metres, 4 metres.
Yeah.
In the likes of the hides, well, yeah, it's about the same distance. With the bigger birds, they seem to sort of get a little bit more
They're a bit
flighty,
wary,
so a bit wary of you.
Flighty,
So
aren't they?
yeah, you're actually a little bit more distance there. Next favourite, oh geez, it varies. I love the Peregrine Falcon. Basically, for what it is, I suppose it's one of the raptors, and yeah, it's very hard to sort of get close to those, but yeah, you just got to know where they are in there. I think they're called the Aries. And down in Tasmania, they dated one of the areas down there back 250 years. And I don't know, carbon data or something. And they actually sort of, that's over generations and generations, they keep going back to this same spot. And the same out at Halls Gap, not Halls Gap, the Grampians, northern end of the Grampians. They've been going back there year after year too. Not the same bird, but yeah. But I love the Peregrine Falcon, and to see them in the wild and sort of, you know, see them sort of flying and that, and they dive in, and it's just incredible. You can see where they get the speed from. They are. Yep. At close range, yeah. Because,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Is-
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
and a lot of it's just been there at the right time.
Yeah, right time, right place.
Because you can't predict them. They're
No.
just
And that's why that one
getting out the bush and looking.
Yeah.
That's,
Yep.
and getting in. And I know I've got a couple of farmers who'll call me up and say, Karl, there's a wedge-tail on sheep carcass. So you whiz back there and, well, the birds are gone, the carcass are gone, and give me a call next time. But it's just, just get out and
Yep.
get out looking. But yeah, I'd probably say mine's, I like the diamond firetails. They're my go-to bird. I love them in my aviary, and I love taking photos of them
Yeah, out in the wild.
out in the
that,
wild.
yeah,
And I had
yeah.
a couple of guys, a guy from Portland had his mate from New Zealand who's a well-renowned guy in bird keeping, and they wanted to take some diamond firetails. They gave me a call. He said, we just spent the last 3 days crawling up the 18th green at the Hamilton Golf Course, and we can't get into Brass Row Zoo of these diamond firetails, which
Yeah.
he's come to Australia to try and take these photos. And he gave me a call. He said, can you help us out, Karl? I said, yeah, come up. And I said, we'll just sit up on the bank here where they normally are. And we just called them in. I said, they'll come into that tree and they'll sit down kind of next to you. And sure enough, they done the right thing. They flew in and they sat there, and Casey's name was, he said he just couldn't believe. He said they're nearly too close, I just can't even take a photo of them with the camera. And they were more than happy with it. So that was quite good. So we'll get to our next question. Would also like to know,
You go to ISO.
you go to ISO to avoid noise. Well,
That sort of varies a
it
lot.
varies. I know I've taken photos of ISO at 100 and there's been noise in the photos, but
Yeah.
preferably the lower the ISO, the less noise you're going to get in your image. But then saying that, the technology now, I'm quite comfortable to take a photo at 6,000 ISO,
Yes,
and
yeah.
you
Because-
can soon get rid of the noise at
Yeah.
Stawell real.
If you then go into Photoshop or you post
Key 22
editing,
is take your photo in raw.
yeah,
And you won't have
yeah, and then
the noise is easy to get rid of.
yeah, you can get rid of most of it, and then it depends on how far you got to crop into. Otherwise, they start getting a little bit
Yeah,
funny
if
too.
you start
Yeah,
cropping into it, they'll get a bit
yeah.
noisy. What length lens do you use? Well, we're both the same. We use a 200 to 500mm Nikon, which is probably the best ultra zoom lens kind of Nikon's produced. It's
Yeah.
5.6 right through the whole
Aperture.
aperture, and it's not overpriced. It's quite reasonably priced, and the image quality is really, really good.
Yes,
And there's it's not up there with your prime lenses, but it's not far behind.
yeah, you won't see much difference in the
A prime
quality.
lens.
It's no, they're pretty good.
No, they're really good. Even though we all would love that big prime lens,
Yeah.
that'll have to do for now. Do you use a fixed ISO or an auto ISO?
Auto,
Yeah, I use
yeah.
auto.
auto ISO all
I
the time.
set the minimum,
Yep,
and I set the maximum of the ISO, and
yep.
let the camera do the work.
And
But
that's
yeah.
and that's the next question as well. If auto ISO, what limits do you put on it? Well, as I said earlier on, that was 64 up to 4,000, and you just let that do the up and down with contrasting light.
Yep. Let the camera.
It'll do it.
The camera's there to work for you, so let it do the work.
Yep. Do you use aperture or shutter speed priority, or neither? What else do you use?
Well, Wayne, will you use manual?
I use
Solid
manual all the time, basically because of the auto ISO. I use the shutter speed, which is say 2,000 up to about 4,000, depending on the day and what I'm after. Usually about f8, and once again I then let the auto ISO sort of do its thing, so you know you don't miss your shot then.
And I'll use manual a lot, but I also use aperture priority a lot, just for the fact that when I'm travelling around, I'll just set the camera in aperture priority, and if there's a bird, I'll just jump out and shoot. Downfall being in aperture priority is the default setting is only around 800 on the shutter speed. So if you jump out to take a bird in flight, you may or may not get it. It will increase the shutter speed, but it's a risk you take.
Yeah, with a long lens at 500, well then you're very likely to get sort of lens movement.
But yeah. What have we got next?
Do you use spot focus or broader focus point? Does it matter which one you use, or is it one better than the other birds in flight?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, birds in flight, I generally use
Use
a group metering.
in Nikon it's called.
It's group, yeah,
Group
I know
metering?
what it is in Canon, but yeah.
Not really sure much about Canon. So yeah, group metering, group focus points. Yeah, you won't follow a bird with a single focus point.
No,
in
very
flight.
hard to get one unless it's one of the bigger birds which are flying a little bit slower. But the little ones, definitely you've got to have at least group metering.
Absolutely. Do you have a broader focus point only for birds in flight? Do you use? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can use 3D tracking, which does work.
On the bigger birds.
Bigger birds, okay. It'll track the eye of the bird. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, you use a group focus to get your birds in flight.
What sort of settings do you use for birds in flight, and do you use different settings for sitting birds? Well, not really. I generally stick to the same settings because you don't know, like that a sitting bird might all of a sudden get up and take flight. So that's why I just stick to the ones that I've got, and it seems to work. Sometimes the shutter speed's a little bit high, but you know, it's sort of worked for me anyhow.
Yeah, but in general, your birds in flight, your shutter speed's going to be a lot higher.
That's right, yeah.
So it could be anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 on your shutter speed just in flight.
There we go. More broadly, what are your go-to settings for birds in trees?
All depends.
Yeah.
If the birds sit in the sun or the birds sit in the shadows.
Yeah.
If you sit in the shadows, your shutter speed's going to be right down.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. It's very hard to
But
sort of get a bird sort of like in trees where you got good light, unless they're out in the open. But you know, the majority are sort of, you got leaves, shadows, things like that. So it's hard to sort of get them right.